I am unashamed. What about you?
Now everybody gets their feelings hurt. You got to have thick skin.
I have thick skin around here, Joe.
I can't imagine that you would actually hurt somebody's feelings. Every time I turn around every Sunday, somebody says to me, so it's either I hear you shuffle in the blind, I hear you shoot with your eyes closed, I hear you haven't shot anything, and I'm like, this Jase is tearing me up every time, and I have no rebuttal. I have no way to combat that, and these people just laugh at me.
It's true.
And I'm just like, good night.
I was just calling it like I was saying it.
So officially, Jersey Joe now is part of the family. We know that because he's seated at the table during the cold open. That's how you know you made it, Joe.
Next level.
Next level. Welcome. Otherwise, we'd have had to wait to bring you in as a guest.
Well, there was a reasoning for that. Are y'all going to talk about that?
On the why we wait?
No. Why Jersey Joe's here?
That's why we have him on. Well, what had happened was we had a joining together of families a couple of nights ago, and so you are officially now. We have children that are married,
and he has noticed the sweetness of the state of Louisiana.
I saw that.
Mayhaw.
Phil brought props today for you who are listening. He just held in his hand a jar of what it says MH23, but Phil, it's actually 2024.
It's a very helpful thing.
24.
And some might be a little confused on what it means.
That's still living in the past.
But check this out. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who wins souls is wise.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that at, Phil?
That's in Proverbs 11:30, and for some reason or another, I already had that underlined.
Proverbs 11:30.
The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. What wordage? And he who wins souls is wise. So I'm saying to you, Mr. Jersey, welcome to that party right there.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Well, you brought
we
this.
got direct Bible verses that said.
So are you giving him jelly? Is he in that much?
Is this a wedding
to take
gift?
This home?
This is my gift to him.
Wow.
This is a dowry.
And you say, well, what's next?
I usually have to go into the secret hiding place.
He is in training right now.
Yep.
To win the souls. But as he's doing so, he needs to remember the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who wins souls, any way you want to slam it, is wise. Right. So, having said that, these two are coming your way. These were last year's. I had them. The reason they lasted until today, I didn't have but two of these left because I had them hidden in a good place under my bed.
Well, now the world knows.
So
they're going to break into
the world
Phil's.
is out there. You said, what's going on in your bed? I said, I don't know, but there's a lot of sweetness down below it. And this is right here. And the sweetness comes from, look, you see this? Look.
Oh. So Phil brought berries.
In my yard. In my yard, I am today officially 2 years shy of 80.
Today's Dad's birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Yeah.
So here's my birthday celebrated. I looked over there at the clock this morning and I noticed it and I said, this was the day I came in. I said, how long did those mayhaws grow? Because I planted the trees that this fruit came from 30 years ago. I planted mayhaw trees. Just look at that, what the Almighty has done. And if you put that on some of the things you make, because you're a great cook, tell the truth. I mean, did that help?
Oh, absolutely.
So you served this at the wedding rehearsal dinner. You had mayhaw jelly as a topper for your duck wraps, chicken wraps, alligator wraps, and they were delicious.
Oh, the food was delicious.
That's
this
the most
was the backbone of that.
Yeah.
Just think of that.
I know.
So we used to, I would make bacon wrapped scallops, and I would put raspberry preserves on them. And that was how I came up with the idea to try the mayhaw, because I knew Phil was coming and most of the family was coming. So I figured, you know what? We'll do some duck wraps and we'll try that mayhaw on it. And I bet you it would be unbelievable. Sure enough, it was a hit.
It was a Jersey hit. So a couple of things. One is at the wedding, Joe did our blessing prayer after I married Joey and Carly, his son, my granddaughter, because there's about 10 years different. Well, 8 years difference between me and Joe. And Joe officially in front of his family, so I guess it's official now, said he is, even though he's Jersey Joe, because Dad's giving you that name, he is officially now from Louisiana. He is
Right.
He has come out as a Louisiana man at the wedding, so that was a big deal.
Yeah, it's still Jersey Joe,
Yeah,
but my home is here. My roots are here.
Have you renounced the boost? Are you still drinking the boost?
How do you know about the boost?
We talked about the boost.
Oh, we went down that rabbit hole the last podcast.
They made me nervous because I thought that was like some secret way, kind of like Phil's secret place of what lies beneath Phil's bed. That sounds like the title of this podcast.
it's a sweet place.
The only reason it's under the bed, it tends to be I noticed, more secure and safer.
But Phil,
It's hidden under
So
my bed.
I would ask.
Normally don't say, well,
I
let's
have
go
to-
get some jelly.
I have
we'll
to
go to
address-
Phil's bed.
I have to address this. Phil lives behind a gate that is military style level.
It would be hard to get that gate down.
You're in the middle of nowhere. No one, the GPS, they give up before you even get out here anyway. So I'm like, Phil, I don't think you have to hide it under your bed. You could actually.
He's hiding it from us, Chase. You hadn't figured that out yet.
Well, now the world knows where it's
those
at.
of us who can get through the gate is who he's hiding it from. But he told us where it was. That's why there were only two left, Dad.
They're never
We've all been
gonna.
under
They're
your
never
bed,
gonna
Dad.
make it down.
We've all been there, Dad.
God made a mayhaw. It's just a little bit of fruit here.
Phil,
When he did that right there, what he
I hope
did
you're watching today.
is he gave the world a little sweetness today.
It is.
And it comes from this right here. What a God.
Well, I tell you something.
And he who wins sow the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. I mean, man.
but I think you picked your own birthday present today, which is amazing. You went out and gathered.
There was no one else that could get to me to say, good job.
Nobody else was there.
Nah.
So Willie came over yesterday. He was in rare form. And we had a discussion about mayhaws because he planted, I'm sure because of your influence, Dad, he planted a mayhaw grove next to his lake/pond that's behind his house. And it's about 31 trees, but they've been there for 10 years and they've never produced a single mayhaw. So Stone started doing some digging because now Stone is kind of Willie's right-hand man, and found out if any cedar trees are anywhere nearby, they put off something called cedar rust, and no fruit trees will produce fruit.
Yeah, and none of to his trees he planted, not one of these came forth from it
For
how
10
long?
years. 10 years.
10
So
years.
now in the 11th year, Stone found out there is something you can do to spray the blooms, and it will take the effect of the cedar rust off. And this year, they are loaded for the first time.
Ooh, that sounds like another adventure for Jace.
So, Jace, I'm saying that, and
He
look,
sits
it's,
right there close to your yard.
it's nice hard ground underneath. They'll fall. They're easy to pick up. I've already been noticing it.
Well, he snuck up on me yesterday morning. I was out there early, which I was surprised he was up because he thought I was fishing in his pond. So he eased up on me, but I was actually chipping golf balls on his little green, you know.
Is he picking up any fruit yet? Or is it that
I think
stage,
they're
or-
just starting to fall.
Very
this
well. I mean, just call this a hunch. I know he loves biscuits.
Yeah.
What gave it away?
He knows his way around a biscuit. So we had the wedding was fantastic. It was very Carly was she wanted it simple. She didn't want it to be big. There was no attendance. It was just her and Joey and me up front. Our family came in. It was just the two families. Pretty simple. We did it at Jason and Missy's property. It's beautiful where their property is out on their where their estate is, the Logtown estate.
Thank you. I'll tell
That
you.
house was built in the 1800s.
So the oldest house in Ouachita Parish.
Absolutely beautiful.
Well, the fact that it was 60 degrees, no bugs, blue skies.
One of 3 good days in Louisiana. We get 3 days a year like that day. And we don't know when they're going to hit, but we happened to hit it on her wedding day.
Fantastic.
Here's something we were talking last night, Joe. I had not realized. I'm talking to Carly and Jimmy now.
Yeah.
I'm having to say that. we were talking about how she said, we've all got married on fours. And I even took it back to mom and dad because they had their pioneer wedding, as mom calls it, in 1964. Lisa and I got married in 1984. Jay and Anna got married in 2004. And now Carly and Joey got married in 2024. So I'm not sure what none of us planned it that way, but it seems to be through my lineage, every 20 years there's a wedding.
Mother, I'm going to Ruston because I have a scholarship, football scholarship, so I'm going there. I'm a senior in high school. I'm fixed to graduate.
1964.
I said, but I just want to let you know, you're a junior in high school, so I'm heading out, and you'll stay here and go to school or whatever. She says, let me explain something to you. Where you go, I'm going. So don't worry about me. I said, you better tell your mama.
She pulled the Ruth on you. Your people are my people.
And she did, she said, I told her, she said, go for it. See you.
There was one factor that I was part of the party too, so I went as well. I was raised at.
Well, that's right, and
she was pregnant with me because I was born in January.
Burst forth from her.
I burst forth in 1965, January the 5th. I was the first baby born in Lincoln Parish. So it's one of my great accomplishments.
You were the first baby.
I was the first baby born in Lincoln Parish in 1965. There's a picture.
The first of the year. I thought you were the population of one.
That's what I was thinking when he said that.
There was a picture in the paper of mom holding me because somebody figured out I was the first baby born.
And I had no idea that he who wins souls is wise at the time.
Yeah.
But I eventually, that's what happened.
If you want to see that, watch The Blind. That's the story, right? Of how it all worked out. So it's 60 years for mom and dad together, 40 for Lisa and I, 20 for Jay and Anna, and now Carly and Joey started their life Monday night as a couple.
Well, you got to have four sides to have a square. That's my answer.
So that's like what would that mean? What is that square?
Well, it's a foundation for, a house. Or rectangle applies also. So
I sat up there. I noticed, Jay, I call him Stone. That's just always what I've called him, but we'll call him Jay.
He doesn't care.
Yeah. But so the audience knows I'm talking about Jay. But he got me. He was in tears when he started.
It got me.
He ugly cried down the aisle.
And I was fine up until then. And then I kind of started to get emotional, and I was sitting there, and I'm looking at Joey, I'm looking at Carly, and you in the middle there. And your little belly bump, but I noticed you couldn't button.
That was my middle for the middle.
Couldn't button your jacket, but
no, there's no button in that jacket. That's a 15-pound jacket ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Trust me, I got no room to talk. But anyway, I remembered back. Oh man, it was like 27 years ago when I was in that same position with my wife, and I met my wife when she was 16, and I was 19. Just joined the fire service. I met her at the firehouse, and we had this whole firefighter wedding, and I just started thinking about where I was in my life then with the gospel and having God in my life versus where I am now and where Joey is. So when I was in that position, and this is all going through my head while I'm watching the ceremony, right? And I'm starting to get emotional about that because I'm thinking, this kid at 19 and Carly at 18, they are so much more mature than I was, especially in the gospel. I was not a believer when I got married. So I got married in the church because like I said before, it's no secret, I was Catholic. I got married in a church, and we went back to the firehouse for the reception. We jumped on the fire truck, did a ride around town, screaming the sirens. She's in her wedding dress. I'm wearing my hat. It's a tradition thing. And we get back to the firehouse, and what do? We drink and party. And I'm thinking to myself the other day, that's not happening here. And that was part of the prayer that I gave about, these are two kids that are coming together as one under God, and our families are joining together to create that support structure that I didn't have back then. And there was no outside influences back then telling me how I needed to be and what I needed to do to be successful in marriage. So all this is going through my head while I'm sitting there and I'm saying, this guy is set up for success now. And I just get to sit back and say, I did my job. I brought him here 4 years ago. I let him sit with Phil, get the gospel preached to him, get it into his head and what he needs to do to be a good person under God, and how to have a marriage surrounded by the Lord, and learn to love the Lord first before you can possibly love anyone else. And all those emotions came over me. And then right then you asked me to come up and speak, and I was just like, man, I got all this going on in my head. I want to say so much, but I don't want to, just talk for an hour. So I had to dumb all that
since
down.
I just done a whole wedding in 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been noticing with all these storms that you're starting to see, you get in springtime, the air gets a little more volatile, more tornadoes and things like that. And for me down here on the Gulf Coast, we start getting into the summer, we get into hurricane season. And you start thinking about being prepared for an emergency. We think about that down here with generators, with things that may happen to us. And of course, the same thing happens with our preparedness for food. Emergencies come without warning. And so you got to be ready ahead of time, right? Your supplies should be ready to grab and go right away. You secure those supplies at the website preparewithphil.com. This is our good friends at My Patriot Supply. They're going to start you out with a 4-week emergency food kit. So they've been helping millions of Americans prepare since 2008. My Patriot Supply are experts in self-reliance. Their 4-week emergency food kits offer over 2,000 calories per day, and they're protected by heavy-duty 4-layer packaging. And these kits can last up to 25 years. So they're great to have, and they're great to have for the long term. So we want you to check it out. Be prepared by going to preparewithphil.com and save $50 per kit. They ship fast and free in unmarked boxes. You save $50 per kit at preparewithphil.com. That's preparewithphil.com. Get ready for whatever's coming.
It was 11 minutes.
11 minutes.
That was the second fastest wedding.
Well, the fastest one I ever did was Richard Anderson's son, Colton. And the reason why is because they got married next to a lake. This was a couple of years ago. And there was a lightning strikes all around. And I thought, I don't know if the Almighty, this is a light show or he's against this. But I did that one in 6 minutes.
That's short.
Because of all the lightning and everything else. No, it was really special, Joe. It was really great. And I told you after the wedding that, I was preaching last Sunday out of Hebrews 2. Jesus mentions that he didn't come for angels. He came for Abraham's descendants. And I was so glad that the Hebrew writer put Abraham there. Of course, you see him throughout the whole book. Because Abraham is such an interesting story because he's really all of us. It's before Judaism, before the law, before all of it. He was just a guy who was someplace, and God said, I want you to go to another place. And he said, he didn't even tell him where. He just said, I'll let you know when you get there. And so I've considered that Joe's story, Joe and Christine's story, is like an Abraham story. I mean, they're in Jersey, they're kind of spinning their wheels, and, then all of a sudden they find us, and when they found us, they found Jesus. And then it's like, you know what, we're going to go to this place, and we're not really sure why. But we feel like God is leading us to go. So it was an Abraham moment for you, and now you got down here and look at what God's done in your life. It's pretty amazing.
Phil and I we do the Unashamed Gospel.
Joe is Dad's right hand man
Yeah.
for the Unashamed Bible study we do every Sunday.
And Phil speaks, and then I get up and I kind of close out the show, and I speak a little bit, and I talk about how I've learned so much from Phil mentoring me all these years, right? And, you take something as simple as this, right? I said it, one of the classes that I did, I said, we pay, not as in we, the world pays scientists billions and billions of dollars to unlock the key to life. And I said, I'll give it to you for free. It's right here. Right here.
He's holding his
You don't,
Bible
need,
up.
you don't need to spend any money at all. It is all right here. And they say, oh, well, the science explains everything. And I said, can science explain this? This little thing I'm
He's
holding in
holding
my
up
hand
the
here?
Mayhaw.
How can something so perfect be created, flawless, be turned into food, but have a purpose? Everything in this world has a purpose. Every bug, every leaf, every grain of dirt. It all has a purpose, and it was created by a force that was so spectacular that we can never possibly understand. So I said, you take your scientists who can tell you all of these, oh, well, it's because of this, this, and this. The world, see, there was this massive explosion from nothing that created the earth and the moon and the stars and the sun. And I'm like, well, that's great. You can explain all that. Can you make this for me?
Fruit is raining down on us.
Make it. Or I have chickens. They lay eggs. Make me an egg. Prove to me that you have unlocked the key to life and make me an egg. They can't.
And it's funny, Joe, you say that because a lot of people say, well, now they could do all this stuff and they make these hybrid things and they clone things and all this, but it still always has to start with something that they couldn't make. Yep. And then they can, out of that, do some amazing things, again, because we're made in the image of God. That's right. I did want to mention one more thing before we move on from the wedding, because our wedding festival or our wedding feast started Sunday morning. Actually, it started when your guests started arriving that weekend, Joe.
Yeah.
And Joe started sharing with some of the folks that came down. And so Sunday morning, we mentioned this, I think, on our last podcast.
Right.
Sunday morning, Dad and Joe baptized folks together. Usually they come to the class if anybody requests to be baptized. And so they're baptizing folks, which usually happens at where we meet on Sunday. And we look up, and one of them is one of the young men that was there. And I noticed he had a really snazzy camo vest on.
He did.
I was like, I'm impressed. They brought they brought camo down, their dress camo from New Jersey. And but then your mom, which you didn't know was going to happen, she comes up in the baptistry, and you looked at Dad, because I was standing there watching you guys, and you said, that's my mom. And then she came in, and you were able to baptize your mom.
And he didn't know she was coming.
Right. So what a moment, right, for the whole, to your description of the wedding. It was really, it's more than just a young couple getting married, even though that's a great thing. This really was an even bigger spiritual moment for all of us. But that was just really special. Was it? How did you feel about that?
I mean, it came full circle, right? My mother, again, she raised me, and we weren't a very religious household. There was drinking, cursing, I wouldn't say there wasn't much love there, but it just wasn't. It was your typical American family, hustle and bustle, no time for anything. My parents were divorced. She got married, remarried, and then divorced, and then remarried again. So my mom's had it rough in her life. She recently lost her father, my grandfather, who really wasn't a good man. He wasn't around a lot for her, so she kind of had to fend for herself and, take on the world, so to speak, as a single mother and raise us. So, things happen, whatever. She, when I moved down here, she saw the change in me, and she said to me about a year ago, she says, I've noticed a major change in you. You seem happy, you seem calm, and your knowledge is growing and growing in the Bible. You're not afraid to talk to people about it. And she says, that's really starting to, change my vision of you. And, I had no idea it was going to happen. She came to Phil's class. She sat in the back, and she heard Phil speak. She heard me speak. I asked who wanted to be baptized. We had a few hands raised, not hers. So we baptized 4 people, and one of those folks that we did baptize, his name was John, and he was one of the friends of a cousin in my family who came down from New Jersey, and this was the first time I really met him, and we had time to talk. And he had that typical question where, I've heard a little bit about the gospel, but I just don't understand. Tell me about it. So I shared the gospel with him sitting out back, and it was nice. I mean, we had a whole crew out there. We had about 5 or 6 people out there. My wife's aunt was out there, who you spoke with too yesterday. But it was nice. We spoke for about an hour and a half, and I just shared the story and shared it the way that Phil does, because he's taught me basically how to share the story. And I got through to him because he seemed to be the most interested, and he committed to doing it on Sunday, and that was great to be able to do that. And I turn around and I see my mother standing there, and I looked at Phil and he looked at me and he says, "That's your mama?" I said, "Yeah." And Phil said, "You know what to do. I'm here with you, but you do it." So, I said to her,
Was that emotional?
beyond emotional. I mean, to baptize your mother.
Wow.
Not knowing it was fixing to happen.
The
And I
one
think
who
that's
birthed
better.
you got to be a part of her new
Absolutely.
birth. And she told me she had been, I talked to her about it. She told me she'd been thinking about it a while. And she said the last couple of times that she's come down here, she almost did it. And she said, but this time I just, I finally just broke down and said, this is what I got to do.
That's why the first text I looked at, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. And he who wins souls is wise.
You're right. And that's what happened.
Well, there's a reason I think that Jesus' first miracle was revolving around a wedding gathering.
That's a great point.
I really believe that. Even because you mentioned, you brought up science, which, God is the greatest scientist. I'm all for science, but
He is science.
Yeah. Just like everything else, you can say that. I am life. I am the resurrection. I am science. But the verse I thought about is when you were talking about that is in your Hebrews 2 that you talked about. It said, in bringing many sons to glory, this is Hebrews 2:10, it was fitting that God, for whom and through whom everything exists. So you listed a few things, but you could have just said everything. Everything that we know exists should make the author of the salvation perfect through suffering. Both the one who makes men holy and those who are made holy are of the same family. Because it's all talking about he became a human.
Yeah.
And so Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers, but there's just something spectacular about family and families coming together. Jesus' first miracle was that. You remember in Ephesians where everybody goes there to get the roles of husbands and wives, but at the end of that paragraph in Ephesians 5, and he said, this is a profound mystery, but I'm talking about Christ and the church.
Yeah.
I mean, we're the bride of Christ. We're sons and daughters of God. There's all of this about being children of God all over the place in the Bible. And there's just something spectacular as family when you realize that God is the architect of this family.
Yeah.
So when you think, well, what are the major breakdowns in society right now currently going on? Well, one of them that's got to be at the top of the list is the breakdown of the family.
Right. And the purposed evil attack on that at every single level. Let's take another break. So, Dad, you got a verse for us there from Revelation 22. What is it?
On each side of the river stood the tree of life, bearing 12 crops of fruit, yielding its fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree are the healing of the nations.
What's interesting about that verse is that's a picture of God and people living together forever. Heaven and earth coming together. Of all things they could use to illustrate would be trees along the banks producing fruit.
You betcha.
Which tells you the importance of fruit.
That's cool.
One of our sponsors is Balance of Nature. And their whole thing is about providing fruits and vegetables in your diet, of course, to have a healthier lifestyle while you're here on the planet. We talk a lot on the podcast about what's beyond this life, but also this life is important as well. The average person can't even eat half of the recommended servings of fruits and vegetables in one day. So you got these big gaps that come in your nutrition. And what their product does is it provides 31 fruits and vegetables in easy to swallow capsules so that your body gets all the nourishment that it needs, and it provides that every single day. So we want you to enjoy the outdoors and the indoors by having a balance in your diet of fruits and vegetables. And here's what you do. You go to balanceofnature.com and you're going to get 35% off plus $10 off any additional sets with your first order as a preferred customer by using the discount code PHIL. That's limited to 5 sets, but you'll save a ton of money while getting the fruits and vegetables you need in your diet. Go to balanceofnature.com, use the promo code PHIL for 35% off. That's balanceofnature.com.
Which is why I've been so much out there promoting our new friends, the Small Bones, who I was having an interesting conversation with last night about. And the movie's out by now, but I really encourage you to go see it because it is
unsung hero.
What I just described in these passages is basically what they're doing. It's a family from Australia that you show. I mean, you can see what God did through this family, and it's not so dissimilar as to what happened in Jersey Joe's family
and in our family.
And in our family. It's just another family, and you're like, oh, I'm seeing a pattern.
Yeah.
That's why I brought up during the wedding, we were talking about this before we got started. So, because I seem to be the person people come up to when they don't agree with something that they hear on the podcast.
It seems to happen a lot.
I mean, we're at a wedding. It's moving. Stone created this atmosphere by, because he's a man's man.
He's got a crust around him, but underneath the crust, when it cracks,
zero body.
Jiu-jitsu.
He's a jiu-jitsu.
Zero body fat. I'm sure he's somewhere lifting a weight right now as we speak. And I mean, he was a basket case. His daughter, escorting his daughter to give her away in marriage, just made him weepy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was overcome with emotion. And so we were all considering that. But so 11-minute wedding, and most of the time was family time. We had a meal together. Mm-hmm. And I was actually talking about the John 2. Said, there's a reason Jesus did that miracle. I was giving the same sermon to my table. And there was a guy who we've known for years that we love, who's also an excellent cook.
Yep.
But he said, I've been meaning to ask you. There's something you said I don't know if I agree with. He said, you were teaching a class, you brought up when you were in Israel that it was filled with Opelousas cat, which that was an okay thing to disagree with me on. He's never been to Israel.
Yeah.
I've been there.
And he may not even know what Opelousas cat looks like.
Yeah, and so we started talking about that. I said, oh, yeah.
Fine-tasting fish.
I said, they're there. I said, there's a reason Jesus had that meal post-resurrection. And he's like, well, that's what I was going to ask you about. I'm not sure that's true. And I thought, you're not sure it's true? He ate 4 meals post-resurrection. He's like, yeah, where are you getting that? I said,
the Bible?
The Bible. I said, now look, most of the time I'm open to criticism. I said, but you need to go home tonight and read your Bible. I said, he had 4 different meals post-resurrection.
He did.
And he said,
you're correct, sir.
But you know what he said, which was so funny? He said, well, why would he do that if he was imperishable? And he didn't use the word imperishable. I think he said immortal. And I said, that's the point. I was like, he was the new image of God. I said, the verse.
Did you think a man who can cook as good as him would take that as one of the greatest things that could ever be? That's the way I'm looking at it.
That's what I said. I said, look, you have a special talent.
No heart disease, no fatty liver, none of that.
God values people as family eating together, and you're seeing a sign that this is going to happen forever. Yeah. This what we're a part of, him bringing families together as a family of God, and that's why he came and died. Or he wouldn't have been having these meals post-resurrection.
Absolutely.
It also testifies to the fact that God values the physical world. So much of Christian theology, and the way I grew up, I always associated it with spiritual and physical, spiritual good, physical bad. But that's not the gospel of the kingdom. The gospel of the kingdom is that it's all God's, and so it's an embodied spirituality too. That's another thing. It actually God takes the form of a human body, and post resurrection, the fact that he is still eating tells us that our physical bodies matter, and that there's value to that, and that God values that, and God values his creation. He values food. He values a wedding feast. It's not, this whole secular sacred divide is not in the Bible. It's all sacred. It's all his.
I mean, and really, Zach, you just described the Hebrew writer's whole point in Hebrews 1 and 2. He said it wasn't for angels he did this; it was for us, because he became one of us.
And it is interesting. After the verse I quoted, "The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who wins souls is wise." If the righteous receive their due on earth, how much more the ungodly and the sinner?
Yeah,
That's bring them all together and show them what the kingdom of God looks like.
Oh, that's strong.
If you look at the discussion you guys are having earlier on science too, I mean, science is not a bad thing.
Right.
It's limited in how far science is our inquiry into the natural world to look for cause and effect. But it's not going to lead you. I mean, to a point it can. I mean, you mentioned the beginning of the universe. In Genesis 1, it says that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and the word there for create. You kind of hit on this, Al, but the word for create there is a word that means to create out of nothing.
Yeah.
To create ex nihilo. It's bara, B-A-R-A, and it means to there's nothing that the stuff is made from. Now we create stuff like this table right here. Somebody made this table, 50 years ago, but they made it out of stuff that was already made.
Right.
That's a different word than what the Hebrew writer says in, or what it says in Hebrew in Genesis 1. That's the create out of nothing. And so the idea then is that the physical world was not created out of other physical stuff. It was created out of nothing, which, by the way, science does kind of show us that now, that the universe had a beginning. It's impossible to deny that. And because it had a beginning, then it had to have someone who began it. And there's a whole apologetic behind that. But I just, for me and kind of what we're seeing here in our church is the more we can move into an embodied spirituality. I think a wedding feast is like the epitome of that. Like when Layla got married, I felt the same way. Joe,
DJ
it
did.
was,
yeah,
it was. I mean, but being there and seeing your kids, your grandkids, seeing them take on a covenant marriage, and to be able to celebrate that. It's not a church service, but man, is it not just filled with Jesus? And I think that's the thing that you experience.
And we've said that so much because it mirrors that. Let's take another break. So Zach, it's 2024. Do you know how your liver is?
My liver is, I'm shredding it right now, doing so good.
That's good. And you and I both took Liver Health Formula, which is one of our sponsors, a year or so ago. We had some high enzyme numbers.
You had fatty liver disease, and I was just sick.
You were just sick. Either way, they were bad. And I noticed that everything else tends to go towards fatty liver. But look, there's some serious things about having fatty liver. The AHA, which is the American Heart Association, says that if you have fatty liver, you're 3.5 times more likely to have heart failure than if you didn't. That affects 100 million Americans. So I know many of you out there are probably struggling with this. And let's face it, you throw everything at your liver, all the bad stuff that you put into your body, and your liver is having to deal with that. You gain weight, you lose energy, and it just kind of spirals and gets worse. Your liver has 500 key functions every day. So this product helps your liver. Liver Health Formula. It's all natural, contains 11 clinically proven botanicals that help recharge and protect your liver. Zach and I both took the product, both had great results. So if you're looking to ignite your fat-burning metabolism, boost your energy, and transform how you look and feel, try Liver Health Formula. Receive a free bottle of blood sugar formula to reduce sugar cravings when you order today. Try Liver Health Formula by going to getliverhelp.com/unashamed to claim this free bonus gift. That's getliverhelp.com/unashamed. All I wanted to mention something that because the podcast helped spur this. So I did something I've never done in a wedding. I've done a lot of weddings, and I realized when I was looking to do this wedding, putting it together, that 2023 I broke a 30-year streak of doing at least one wedding every year from 1992 to 2022. And 2023 I didn't do a wedding because I don't work for the church anymore. So that's kind of but it's weird because I didn't realize it till I looked at my this spot in my notes. So I told Carly and Joey they were starting a new streak, in 2024. But one of our podcast listeners named Carolee, she communicates with me because she also watches our live stream. She sent me this little poem. It's a wedding poem. And she did it for me and Lisa because she said, I've been praying about a way to encourage y'all once she heard about Lisa's breast cancer. And so she sent me this thing about us, but when I read it, I was like, oh man, this is so good for the wedding. It really fits in the conversation we're having today because when I first read this, I was thinking about the hands of Jesus, the physical hands of Jesus and what he did with them while he was here because he blessed children, remember, and so many different things. He stretched them out and allowed himself to be nailed to the cross. And so I want to read this because Carolee sent it to me and she's a podcast listener. So this was the first time I've ever used this in a wedding, and it happened to be my granddaughter's. I had them join hands, and then I read this. These are the hands of your best friend, young and strong and full of love for you, that are holding yours on your wedding day, as you promise to love each other today, tomorrow, and forever. And so just watching them as they're holding their hands, These are the hands that will work alongside yours as together you build your future. These are the hands that will passionately love you and cherish you throughout the years, and with the slightest touch will comfort you like no other. These are the hands that you will hold when you fear or grief fills your mind. These are the hands that will countless times wipe the tears from your eyes, tears of sorrow and tears of joy. These are the hands that will tenderly hold your children. These are the hands that will help you to hold your family as one. These are the hands that will give you strength when you need it. And lastly, these are the hands that even when wrinkled and aged, will still be reaching for yours, still giving you the same unspoken tenderness with just a touch. And so then that led me into talking about the hands of Jesus and what he does for us, because it says he holds us up, he lifts us up. It's still that idea that even as glorified God and man, his hands still matter to us. And so my point was to Carly and Joey, you have to always be holding his hand. You have to have that spiritual relationship that then makes your hand stronger as well. So it was a really cool thought that I'd never done before in a wedding. But Carolee, thank you. I know you listen for sending me that because that wound up being kind of something new and that I've never done before in a wedding. But
well, that's why I think this is so appealing. When you read Revelation 21 and see this picture of the heavenly city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband, which is this image of us being married to Jesus as the family of God. That word beautiful stands out to me because in a world that seems just to make us all grumpy and think this place, where is there some kind of diamond or hope, out there? Where's something beautiful? And for us to be described, inspired by the Holy Spirit in the last book of the Bible, that this is what's beautiful. What God does in people's lives and brings them as a family and married to him, these are the beautiful things in life. It just made me reflect just in the last couple of days. So my daughter's been in Central America for months, and she got home last night.
Oh, really?
11 o'clock. So my wife, we were in Nashville. We drive back because I had to do the podcast, and we had the wedding. So my wife, she drives all the way back. Then the next morning, she goes back to Nashville because she wanted to meet Mia when she flew in. And I, since we went and visited her, which I didn't get into the details about it because us being famous people, I didn't want to tell anybody where my daughter was since it was pretty much a third world country. But ever since I've gone and visited her, I just didn't feel good about it because it was a big city. And I love the places we went and the people. And we had numerous Jesus conversations. And, we went during Easter week. But still, where she was staying, sketchy is not the word. And I just thought, here's my daughter, and she's only with 5 other students for this abroad program. There's 6 of them, and only 2 guys. And so I've been waking up in the middle of the night. I mean, I told Missy, I was like, I kind of wish I hadn't gone, because I want her back on American soil. And I just didn't feel good about it. And it's a long ways. But last night at about 11 o'clock, Missy sent me a video. And I thought Missy was just picking her up at the airport. But it was about 7 or 8 of her friends, that her little core group, and they all love Jesus, and they're beautifully character people in the Lord. She sent me a video of when Mia saw them, and Missy had gone and bought all these American mask, headbands, a flag. It was like, welcome back to America.
It's like July the 4th.
But the video, which is only about 20 seconds, it looked like Mia had just made the winning goal, in a basketball game, and they were just jumping and screaming in a circle up and down
At the airport.
At the airport. Just incredible, and it moved me, because I thought, now this is what the family of God, looks like. Because Mia looked a little bewildered, like, I mean, I'm back, but it was really special. And I thought, this is what you find in the family of God here. And of course, I was thinking, thank goodness. And they were going to some fast food restaurant, because she just missed America also. But that was one story I was going to tell. And the other was, I was watching the LSU baseball game last night, which LSU, they won the national championship last year. But this year has been difficult.
Yeah.
I think we're next to last in the SEC. So I pretty much figured out that I was the only person watching LSU play Nicholls State.
And Nicholls is good, because they made the
And they're
tournament.
good. Yeah, I was like, I hope we win. So I'm watching this game, and it's 6-0, and we're winning. And so I'm feeling good, feeling like, because Missy's gone. She's meeting Mia. And in the 8th inning, Tommy Tanks gets up. He's good, if you don't know who I'm talking about. He hits his 2nd home run to make it 9-0. And now I'm positive I'm the only person watching this. What happened on that home run was one of the funniest things, now that everyone is okay. In the moment, it wasn't funny. But he hits this rocket, and there's a guy on the top row, and this guy is very large. Just the first thought in my head was, this looks like the Michelin Man disguised as a Cajun for one night. Huge man on the top row of the bleachers. He brought his glove. He has a buddy next to him, and I guess his wife or daughter next to him. He reaches up to catch this ball, and it goes over his glove and hits him right in the forehead.
Good night.
And bounces off his head out of the stadium. So look, the guy calling the game says, it's way back, it's a deep fly ball, it's out of here. Someone help that guy. That guy needs help. I'm serious. Because it was such a dramatic shot, and they kept putting the camera on him, and he was just bewildered, and he was, you could tell, and you could see blood right under his hairline. Well, it knocked his scalp off.
Yeah.
Well, then you know how things go in the TV world. He became the story. And you could tell he was talking, and they were like, get him some help. So then next inning, they're still on him. Josh Pearson, who's from West Monroe, he's playing left field. Well, then he brings him a ball, because the sad thing about this, not only did he miss the ball,
The ball went out of
the stadium. He can't even get a ball for this, So Josh Pearson throws him a ball. Well, he's already proven he can't catch a ball. So his buddy reaches over and catches that next shot that was fixed to have something bad, and gives it to him. And so then they, even as the game ended, there were camera crews around him. They were interviewing him, because he came to the story, and he kept waving to the crowd, and they going crazy. It was really funny. So I thought, well, I'm the only person who saw that. So this morning on the way down here, my son sends me a text, and I didn't read what it says, but because I was driving. And so I called him, and he's like, Dad, did you watch that LSU game last night? And he was my son was probably the only other person. And we sat there and laughed for 5 minutes about that instance. But what made me think is this is what family is and does. You know, you're a part of something, and the fact that my own son, happened to be watching that game was incredible. It kind of made me get choked up.
That's hilarious. So we got just a few minutes left. So it's Dad's birthday.
Yeah.
Joe, by the way, I want to thank you in front of our whole podcast audience. You've been basically feeding Dad for the last 6 weeks because Mom's been out of commission. So you've been bringing him food. He's been keeping you some sustenance with his great cooking. And you also brought a birthday present today that we want to present to Dad. It's here on the set, and so grab that. We'll show it to the audience. If you're listening, it's a picture of our property. Yeah, here it is.
Well, a place on our property.
Yeah, a place. And so this was a picture that he took.
Money Mayhaw trees.
Well, look, let's guess this blind. Hang on. That's because it's named The View from the Blind.
Yeah, that's the name of
The
it.
view from the blind.
So I got to figure out which
It's right at
blind
daylight.
this is.
Yep.
So do you remember which blind?
I know exactly where it is and when it was.
And so, Dad loves our hunting property.
I think I know it. Is that what we call the Barrett blind?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
I was thinking it was the lake blind.
Nope.
Is that the south end of the privet hole?
It's the dog.
That's the dog?
Mm-hmm.
Dog.
Oh, yeah.
Dog.
Teal.
Yeah.
Teal
It
season.
was during teal season.
First one. Opening day of teal
that's
season.
the scaffold blind on
Yeah.
the dog.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
Dad, this was issue. So you did get a birthday present today. You weren't.
Yeah.
It wasn't just you. Joe had this blown up for you in May because he knows how much you love our property.
Oh, so there's a story behind it actually. So if you're looking at the actual picture itself, I named it The View from the Blind. So I have now become the lowest man on the totem pole when we hunt, as Jace will tell you.
You didn't become that.
I can't see, I can't shoot, but
No.
I'm good at picking up ducks and taking care of Phil.
You didn't become
But
that.
you're
You
a
started
rookie.
that. Yeah, you
Yeah,
started as that.
You started as a rookie, but you have now you're in the it's like the AAA system of baseball.
You've moved
You
up
go
to
from
AAA.
rookie league. You're moving up.
Moving up.
Yeah.
You know, when you
You're still
actually-
not quite at the big leagues, but you're on your way.
Yeah, this is
Trying to
just
get
the
there.
nature of duck hunting, or any venture.
I know. I'm only kidding because you like to get them digs in on me during hunting season, and I can't like reply quickly enough.
So Joe is JerseyJoeConjimmy.com. Jersey has a website. He does some cooking things on YouTube. He's got some cool stuff. You need to check him out. He's now officially part of the family, but really he's been for a long time because Joe and Christine have been coming out and cooking a meal for Mom every Wednesday night for years.
That's where we do our Bible study.
Right.
Every
So they have a personal Bible study, and Joe and Christine feed Mom and Dad food, but Mom and Dad feed Joe and Christine spiritual food.
I think it's a powerful evidence of God. Where else in the world could you see New Jersey, and Louisiana get married, and a guy from Jersey become a part of a Louisiana
That's it.
duck squad?
Man, that's a long shot.
Well, and it is. Jesus brought us together, and that's what creates adventures on this life. That's the reason I was sharing those stories. All those family stories, they matter because we're doing them together.
That's it. I knew Joe had arrived when I saw the LSU license plate on his truck. I knew he fully embraced his culture. Oh, yeah. So Joe, it's been great to have you on today. Kind of reminisce, but also a good spiritual discussion as well about the importance of family. So love you guys out there in Unashamed Nation. So thanks for sticking with us. You're our family.
Thanks for listening to the Unashamed podcast. Help us out by rating us on iTunes. And don't miss an episode by subscribing on YouTube, and be sure to click that little bell to get notified about new episodes. And for even more content that you won't get anywhere else, subscribe to Blaze TV at blazetv.com/unashamed.